In this episode, we talk with Ting about her physical injuries and some of the psychological impact it had as her, as well as discussion of mental health and eating disorders. Hi, everyone. This is Midnight Blues and Other Musings, a figure skating podcast. And today we are really grateful to have the opportunity to talk with Ting Cui. Ting has had an illustrious junior career, receiving a bronze medal at Junior Worlds in 2019. And previously in 2018, she won the bronze medal at Nationals on the junior level. And I'll add that she jumped from being 11th in the short program to getting second in the free, which is ridiculously remarkable.
Yeah, so Ting's career and story really resonated with me. Before this interview, I shared my story of injuries from sport and dance. When I was 15, I tore 3 ligaments in my right ankle. Its impact was incredibly psychologically taxing because you're kind of stuck in this vicious cycle of getting mad at yourself and the world. And there's really not much you can do to speed up the healing process other than PT. And then that initial ankle injury kind of resulted in this like onset of chronic back issues from overtraining. And I also was having like peripheral neuropathy, like nerve pain running down my veins, and a significant more severe relapse of an eating disorder. And 7 months ago, I re-injured that same ankle, and there's something so uniquely awful about like getting an injury, sustaining it for months on end, and then cycling through that process when you get injured again. And we're gonna have a conversation later on in this interview about that impact of injury and how your relationship with skating, Ting, has grown this past year. And CC is also an actively competing athlete. And I think that between the three of us, we can have a meaningful and productive conversation about this topic. So Ting, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. How has your week been?
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to have a great conversation with you guys. My week has been okay. So just starting off with like some of the injury stuff you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
My original ankle injury and re-injury has been much better,
Uh-huh.
which has
Oh,
been really
yay.
exciting. But like one thing kind of causes like another thing to be a little bit bothered. So it changes up every week a little bit. I like alternate between these two spots in my body. But
Mhm.
this week it's been like my adductor that's been kind of flaring up and annoying and like bugging me. And as I'm still trying to learn and like figure out is how to balance like like how I want to train with what my body needs,
Mhm.
which has been kind of frustrating because I want to train a certain way to feel good and ready for competitions, but my body is only letting me train a certain amount. So there's it's like establishing the line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely being conscious of like when you're pushing
Hmm.
yourself too much, because in that like vicious cycle, you always want to do way more than your body can actually allow you to do, which really is unfortunate. But I'm glad that you're kind of conscious of that boundary, and it's yeah. And also congrats on getting into Middlebury. It's an awesome
Oh,
school. What are you planning on majoring in?
thank you. I'm going to be majoring in international and global studies.
Oh, that's
Oh my
awesome.
gosh, no way, Ting.
Yeah.
I'm a global studies major in college.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so
yeah, I
cool.
am. Yeah, that's how. Are you planning on studying any languages at Middlebury? I know they have those like really intensive like language programs. Like I like looked into
Yeah.
them in the past.
Yeah, Middlebury has a really great language program. And so within my major, I'm planning on focusing on the East Asian track. And for
Mm-hmm.
that, you have to be proficient in Chinese and Japanese, actually.
Oh
So I'm going to
wow,
be studying both of them.
that's so exciting. Oh my gosh,
Yeah, I'm
I
so
cannot I
excited.
cannot wait to hear all about it on social media.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. Um,
Thanks.
yeah. So let's kind of get started on the skating front. So at the end of the 2017 and 2018 season, you moved from Vincent Reston Court to Tom Zien in the 2018-2019 season, which is super successful for you. You continued skating on the Junior Grand Prix circuit, and you also debuted debuted on the senior level domestically. And you were the first American lady to medal at Junior World since 2012. You were third behind Trusova and Anna Shcherbakova, and you were just a delight to watch. Talk to us, kind of talk us through your second Junior Worlds experience.
All right, yeah. So my first Junior Worlds experience was in 2018, and that was just a super exciting time. I had never been to such a big competition before, so like showing up to like this championship event, it was a really immersive experience with like all the different skaters who I had never competed against before, and like the big venue, and just like how serious this was. Like this was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And you could feel the energy there, and that was just really cool and like good to get used to for the first time. So for the first one, I had like no expectations on myself for placement. I just went out there and did my best and did what I knew how to do. And for that, it went well. Actually, I did a clean short, and then in the long program, I think the only mistake I made was I fell on a half loop,
Oh,
which
Oh
was
no.
stupid. But I was like kind of angry with myself at the time. But my teammates were like just like laughing at me and like teasing me about it,
yeah.
which I totally understand now because it's such a silly thing. Like you probably only do that once in your career if you're like me. um, but then going into it the second time, I kind of knew what to expect. I
Mhm.
had done two Junior Grand Prix events leading up to that Junior Worlds, and I didn't do as well as I would have liked to at them, but I generally kind of knew where I stood amongst all the top junior ladies
Mhm.
who I was competing against.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into it with a more competitive mindset like, okay, it's possible for me to be on the podium this time. So that's what I'm going to work for. And I still didn't quite believe it when I got there.
Mhm.
But after the short program and I saw that I was third, it was kind of crazy to see like my wildest goals from practice and training that my coach then Tom was like trying to drill into my head, like start to come true.
Yeah.
And I was trying to just keep calm for the long program because prior to Junior Worlds, I think that whole season, I had like one good program and one bad program that I did not so well on.
Mhm.
So just like keeping myself together and getting like two solid programs was the goal and staying calm. And luckily, I was able to do that and keep my placement and get the bronze medal.
Yeah, your reaction in the kiss and cry was so like endearing and adorable. Yeah, you did so well. And I hope you feel so proud about that.
Thank you. It was a little bit of a shock because I didn't see the other Russian girl, the third Russian
Yeah,
who skated before me.
yeah,
So I was like kind of nervous. I'm like, oh, I'm not sure how she did. And like I didn't do a clean program. I got too excited on my second to last jump that I like did it, that I fell on my last jump,
yeah,
which was silly. So I wasn't sure if I had like done enough. And then to see that I had was just such a relief.
yeah. No, the triple flip fall does not count. None of us saw it. It's okay. It didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
But yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously you had like a really great end to your 2019 season, getting the bronze medal at Junior Worlds, being on the podium, super exciting. And you then injured your ankle that summer and recovered in time for U.S. Classic, where you did really well. You were fourth that year, but unfortunately you had to pull out of your Grand Prix assignments because of re-injury, which you sustained through the season. There's a lot of major psychological impact that comes with physical injuries, and I'd like to hear a little bit about your experience that season, especially because you were just at Junior Worlds and you had come from this high to kind of this low as you were unable to compete.
Yeah, that was so taxing mentally. The first time I have to say it was all right because I was just coming off this high And then like suddenly I was working on triple axels in the harness. So
Yeah.
it's like just suddenly like getting injured was a surreal experience. It almost didn't feel real because
Mhm.
it was my first injury. So like my mindset, how I was going into it was just kind of like, okay, like we've never done this before. I have no idea what to expect.
Mhm.
I'm just going to do like everything I'm supposed to, um, which is like what you're supposed to do anyways. Like everything I'm supposed to do, like keep a positive mindset. Like I'll be back on the ice in no time. Like people get injuries all the time, and like you deal with it, you move on.
Mhm.
And so from that, it was tough, but it like I got through it. Like it wasn't absolutely terrible because in a few months I was able to get back on the ice and start jumping. And my jumps came back fairly quickly, which was also nice. And so, yeah, I was able to do the US International Classic, get my season going. I was super excited to be competing a senior. It was my first champs camp before that. So
Mhm.
I was really excited to be there for that. And then I was so looking forward to my Grand Prix. And before that, I had a competition in Finland. And like 3 days before it, before I was supposed to leave, I got my second injury and it was off the ice this time, like doing rotational jumps.
Yeah.
And I just landed on my foot really funny. So, like
Mhm.
Priya said, she tore all the ligaments on the outside of her ankle, like all three ligaments. I did
Mhm.
that the first time. I retore it the second time, along with the deltoid ligament on the inside,
Oh my
and then just had like a bunch of I messed it up. I had a bunch of like tendon damage, like bone bruising, all that. So it was worse than the first time. And this time, like, this is where it really got to me.
Mhm.
I had like finally worked so hard for
Mhm.
months to get back to competitive form. And I just couldn't believe I had to go through it all again. Like that is where I was at. I had to go through all this again. I had to put so much work in again. And who knows if I would like get myself re injured again in the process.
Mhm.
And so mentally, I was not in a good place after the second injury. I tried to stay positive for the first few months, but then I wasn't making as much progress as I wanted. And just seeing like the rest of the season go on and like the world go on while I felt like I was just standing still and not being able to do anything was really frustrating. And as I was still in recovery, COVID started to hit,
Mm.
and that didn't make things better. It was really isolating. So, just a bunch of mental issues that I didn't know I had started to creep up.
Yeah.
So, I was depressed for a little bit, anxious, and then like some eating disorder stuff.
Yeah.
Not fun to have the combination of the three.
Yeah, it's like a
Yes, but
trifecta, but they usually come together in my experience.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so awful.
Mhm.
So sad.
Um, Ting, I have a question. So from my experience, like when COVID hit, it was actually really great for me because my injuries, like I wasn't working them as much. Do you feel like you were able, like going into COVID was worse because of the isolation you felt, or and so like just like the fact that your physical injuries were like alleviated didn't really matter? Like, what's your take on that?
Hmm. So going into COVID, the initial mindset I had was, okay, this is great. Like I'm paused on my skating, but now like the whole world is paused too. So I can
Mm-hmm.
really take advantage of this opportunity and work on my rehab and work on my recovery
Mhm.
to get back on the ice. And it just felt like, okay, like the universe is kind of like with me and giving me this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I was at, and that's what I was doing. And I had finally made it back on the ice before COVID, and I was skating for a couple of weeks, like maybe 2 weeks max, before all the rinks closed down. And that was really frustrating, but still not terrible because I was like, okay, I can use this time to work on stuff off the ice and like get my ankle stronger. And that's what I was doing. But when the rinks opened back up like 3 months later, and I was getting on the ice and I was starting to like trying to get back into it again, I still wasn't where I wanted to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is where it felt isolating because I I was like in this experience all alone and by myself. Like I felt there was like no opportunity to really connect with someone
Mm-hmm.
and talk about it, at least in person. And like these things to me felt like they needed to be talked about in person. And it just didn't feel the same connecting or like initiating the conversation over the phone or over Zoom or something like that. Because up until that point, I had never dealt with any of these issues. So I had no idea how to talk about them at all. And my parents are very supportive,
Mm-hmm.
but as with like Asian culture, they're not great with
Mm-hmm.
when dealing with mental health stuff. So I would like try and go and talk to them, and they would help in like the way that they
Yeah.
thought would like they should be, or like the only way they knew how to, because they never, well, like in China, it like this culture is not really a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just starting the conversation like during COVID was a little bit difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I I can 100% relate on that front with Indian parents. It's
Mhm.
I think that at least in my experience, there's like this there are well-meaning conversations on both sides, but the delivery is kind of is kind of a little harsh, and there's not much understanding of, the trifecta of injury, mental health issues, and eating disorders, and it kind of results, in my experience, in a very disastrous uh, type of advice that's given. But I yeah. So did you kind of reach out to anyone else, a therapist, or did you talk to your coach about these issues?
Yes, I reached out. Okay, I some more context. I
Yes.
was kind of coachless at the time too.
Okay.
I had moved away from Tom after like getting injured the second time,
Mhm.
and I have to say he was great,
Mhm.
but I just didn't feel that connection between us.
Uh-huh.
And I knew Colorado wasn't the right environment for me.
Yeah.
I had made it through 2 years there, but even that, I felt like I barely made it through,
Yeah.
just because it like the training environment was very competitive, which I liked, but just too crazy.
Mhm.
Like there were just so many kids on the ice,
Mhm.
like such a long line for the music. Sometimes you wouldn't even get it played. So I knew I wanted to like figure out a different place to train, especially like as I was applying to colleges too
Mhm.
during COVID. I'm like, I need to figure out my next steps. And college like played into everything too, because as I was injured, I couldn't skate, and I didn't know if I wanted to continue skating if I was like going to start college and all that. So it just felt like a one or another thing at
Yeah.
that point in my life too. But yeah, so I was coachless and I was just back home training and working with my longtime stroking coach, Natalia.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And Natalia is amazing.
Oh,
And she's an Olympic champion and
yes.
she has trained Olympic champions. So she has always in my mind been like,
Mhm.
I put her on a platform like she's such an idol.
Yeah.
And it was just hard to like think that I could talk to her about it. She's
Uh-huh.
my head coach now, along with Priscilla Hill and Roland Burgart.
Mhm.
Like the
Mm-hmm.
three of them are kind of like forming a team. But and now I do talk to her about stuff. But it was just hard to know at first that she could relate.
Yeah, it's awesome that you mentioned that, because I had actually, like, in my notes that, like, in 2010, Tanith had attributed and thanked Natalia, her coach at the time, for helping her with issues with disordered eating, and Natalia had kind of offered her an this ultimatum to put on weight, and Tanit had said she went from feeling really weak to being able to hold lift positions better and just generally felt so much stronger. And that's something that I really admire Natalia for, which I really do guess should be the bare minimum with all coaches, but unfortunately it's not. But I'm so glad that like working with her has been that it's been helping you. And yeah, I mean, she's had such a legendary career as an ice dance coach. Like the people that she's coached, like Grishik and Platov, Krylova, and Averwood, the list is endless. So how has this training environment been?
It's been good. It's been a little of an adjustment for me,
Mhm.
just like because her background is in ice dance,
Mm-hmm.
and so like training with her has been a little bit of adjustment and seeing like how she works with Priscilla too. But
Mhm.
it's honestly been great.
Mhm.
It feels um like how I was training in Colorado, just minus some of the session craziness. Because right now I'm training at Patriot Ice Center,
Mhm.
and this used to be called the Pond.
Mhm.
And when it used to be just like a really empty rink, like you would show up and no one would be there for like sessions on it, and you'd had private ice.
Mhm.
And so whenever I just needed like a day to skate to myself, like within like a private rink, like a rink of my own almost, I would just go there and like have a moment, maybe cry a little bit on the ice. Like it was all good.
Yeah.
So it was just that quiet. But now they're starting to build it up and there's summer camps. And so some of the sessions are still a little bit on the crazy end as you're trying to figure out the new summer schedule. But training has been good. She's been working on, so she's been putting her knowledge into jumping. So a lot of what she focuses on is like your body position, where your weight should be, and your edges. So you have a really solid base to push out of as you're going into these jumps. As
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning and as she's correcting me, I'm kind of misaligned entering certain jumps.
Mhm.
And that causes problems like further down, like on the takeoff or something. And so yeah, it's been just cool seeing how she like is viewing everything. And there's been like some unique corrections too, which has been like super refreshing.
Yeah, and Natalia posted those videos of you doing the triple loop and triple toe, triple tone. They look really good. So how have things been looking in terms of consistency when it comes to your jumps? Kind of relearning how to take off on jumps, and yeah, I mean, it looks like you've gotten all your triple jumps back, which is awesome.
Yeah, thanks. I have gotten all my triple jumps back, which was amazing. And like my biggest goal for the longest time recovering this time, because I have grown so much
Mhm.
within like the past 2 years, and my body has like changed. It's been
Mhm.
like more into the adult body, which I just want to add that like my coaches have been like super supportive of, and I'm like so grateful for that. Like there's been no negativity there with body image.
That's
But
great.
yeah, but like my body is just so different, and
Mhm.
I went to the doctor this week and she told me my growth plates are still open, so I'm still growing. And just I'm 5'6" now, and I measured myself last week. So like that's all really crazy to me. Like I can't
Yeah.
believe I'm like 5'6" and like this tall and still jumping.
Yeah,
There's
that's
such a stigma
yeah,
against
I was
like
literally talking about this
taller skaters.
like that's like above average height, and that's like awesome that you're skating and you have all your triple jumps. And I think it's really great for taller skaters to see that too. Like height does not have to be like a determinator in your jumping ability. It doesn't have to stop
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. But training has been, when I'm healthy, all my jumps are fairly consistent. But my body doesn't necessarily feel like 100% every day.
Mhm.
So, like certain jumps, I'm not able to train as much as I want every day. And so I would say my jumps are still a little bit more on the inconsistent side, especially with like flip and lutz.
Mhm.
But they're slowly getting there, and it's still earlier in the season, so I'm going to continue working. I definitely still not 100% with my skating or my body actually,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm putting in the work every day, and I'm hoping that when fall comes and when like the qualifying competition comes, I'll be where I want to be.
Hmm. Do you know when we're going to see you next this fall competing?
I'm gonna be doing a bunch of summer competitions.
Oh,
And so
exciting.
I just did my very first competition in like 2 years last weekend, White Rose Invitational. But it was so exciting just to be out there. And I wasn't as nervous as I thought I would be because I definitely wasn't ready for this competition. But I needed to get myself out
Mm-hmm.
there. Um, and it went like how it has been going in
Mm-hmm.
training.
Yeah.
So not perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but it was how I had been training. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't really like be upset or anything over that because I'm just like not quite there yet. But like just getting through it was the most important thing. And so it was just a 1 day competition. I did my long program.
Mm-hmm.
And the best part was when I stepped onto the ice, when after they called my name, I had still remembered that feeling of, okay, like it's my turn to compete. I have the ice all to myself. There's like a certain quiet around the rink. And in my mind, I had been like visualizing that moment in the months prior because I couldn't imagine myself competing at all and ever just being alone on that ice for like 4 minutes. And so like stepping on there and then like and having it feel familiar was just really amazing because I had thought I'd forgotten like what that was all about and what to do, and in my mind I always panicked at that moment. So to stay calm and get through that full program was just the win for me there.
Yeah, I definitely relate. Like I was out of practice for like months and months because of COVID, and I was injured, and then I got like exposed to COVID a couple times, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm all like nothing happened. I'm all good. I am very proud to have been COVID free for the last 2 years. But yeah, like you feel like you kind of like try to visualize it, and you don't have like confidence in yourself that you like actually remember how to compete or how to practice. Um, and it's that like I remember I was so nervous for my first practice. I was probably more nervous than for like any competition I've ever had, like any tournament I've ever had, because I was so like nervous about like just I wouldn't remember how to do anything. So like oftentimes like that like first outing is like the victory because you didn't like nothing didn't go horribly wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was a mess the week leading up to that. Like I was like calling like everyone in my circle, like I was calling like my best friends and like my parents and like crying to my coaches
Mm-hmm.
like the entire week leading up to it. And like to the Tuesday that week leading up to it, I had such a bad practice. Like it was
Uh-huh.
absolutely awful just because I was like a nervous wreck about it. And like Natalia's a saint for like dealing with that all week. But when I like was like telling everyone how nervous I was, and especially my parents were like, "Oh, like what are you competing at? Like, are you going to Worlds or something?
Oh my god,
Like, why are you
that's
so
something my
nervous?
parents
Why
would
are you
say.
so
Yeah.
nervous?"
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I don't know. I was I'd never been so anxious before a competition. But when like the day actually came, I was better. Like I had gotten all my emotions out, which was good. But I'm not normally a crier. So like to be crying all week, that was a weird experience.
Yeah, well, now you've had it, so next time it happens, which it
Yeah.
hopefully won't, I hope for you because I hate being nervous before like tournaments and stuff. It always freaks me out. Yeah, no, I always get like really nauseous in the pit of my stomach, like in the like week leading up. Not a fun feeling.
I get butterflies.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
usually my like go-to experience.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. But
Mm.
I always have to remind myself that like that's like your body like preparing like for the adrenaline because like your body's nervous because it knows like it wants to compete. I always have to remind myself of that when I get butterflies.
Yeah, I had a coach when I was younger tell me like butterflies are what you feel when you're about to like fly. Like
Oh
they'll
my God,
help
that's
you lift on
beautiful.
your jumps.
That's so sweet.
Oh,
I
that's
like that.
lovely. Oh, you know,
I'm gonna use that now. I like
yeah.
that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, there's I'm always in like I'm always in like a state of despair anytime I have to like go to practice or compete or literally anything. I actually had my first practice for the first time in like several months, and in my head I was like, everyone's gonna be like judging me internally, and they're not gonna be saying anything, but they're definitely gonna be thinking these mean things, and it's like it's so ridiculous that I'm even thinking these things because I myself would never internally like judge someone when they come to practice for the first time in like such a long time. But like when it comes to me, and I'm sure for other people, it's like you're just so insecure about competing for the first time and being in practice for the first time. But yeah, I'm that first step of like competing even at a small competition is such a big deal, and I understand that state of anxiety that you were in, but the next competition is going to be awesome for you, and you're going to skate so well. And yeah, that's awesome to hear that you are back competing, and even if you're not exactly where you wanted to be, I guess practice wise, you still made that first step to kind of put yourself out there. And I think that's beautiful and awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see what I can do the rest of the season. It's really just been a new chapter in my skating. And with what you just said about like the judgment you feel when you're trying to come back after an injury, it's funny you mentioned that because I was just talking to another skater about it this week. And like at times it depends how big the block is, but at times you'll not even want to come to the rink because you're so scared of what people will think of you. And in my case, I went from like getting the bronze medal at junior worlds to like not being able to do like a single axel and that and even like coming back the second time too in my mind people I thought people were just expecting like the best version of me that I had ever skated, and this was so far from it. So it just like the disappointment that I anticipated would come from them would like build on top of my own, and that was just really hard, and I did not need to put myself through that mentally.
Yeah.
So getting over that was huge for me, and I still deal with it at times,
Mhm.
but just like skating for yourself and realizing, okay, like this is what I can do now.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to own it because I'm not going to be in this position forever.
Yeah, totally, totally. I think it's important to kind of understand that unfortunately injuries are very much inherent to sport, and it sucks. And I mean, I just think fear and anxiety, at least for me, is such a detriment to kind of pushing myself to be the best I can. And I I think that like I need to get over that mental block, and I'm so glad that you're kind of understanding that you didn't need to put yourself through that. It's so important. So I kind of have a follow-up question. So
Mhm.
when you do a sport for so long, you reach that highest level. For you, it was, that bronze at Junior Worlds. There's that sense of obligation that you have to continue and persist regardless of whether you want to or not. And that's not always the case for everyone, but I know you said that you really wanted to rekindle your love for figure skating. How has this past year allowed you to take ownership of your career and reevaluate and kind of understand your relationship with figure skating?
Yeah, good question. So I definitely wanted to rekindle my love for the sport. And in the past year, a lot of big changes has been made in my life because as I'm just transitioning from like high school to college, like teenager entering young adulthood. like physical changes, mental changes, all that. I've had to re-examine the position figure skating has taken in my life. After junior world and like going through the second injury, I wasn't sure if I still wanted to skate.
Mhm.
I'd been going through so much, and maybe like this is just a chance to, get a fresh start, focus on college, focus on
Mhm.
school, focus on like this second career I'll have after skating. Um, and then I started trying a few different things, but nothing quite like hit the soft spot in my heart like skating did.
Mhm.
And so as I got my license too, so I started driving myself to the rink. And everything that I've been doing recently has, or like in the past couple of months, like half a year, has just been like me, like myself, like driving myself. So, like pushing myself too. But if I went to the rink, it was like me, and like everything had to be initiated by me. And
Mhm.
so even if I like didn't want to go, that was my choice now. Like I
Mhm.
could decide what I did that day. And so in the beginning, it was kind of an adjustment, just having to, like, your parents aren't there. You have to, like, there's no one there to, like, hound you or lecture you for, like, slacking off or, like, showing up late or all that. So, like, all of that is your responsibility now. And so that's what I've been doing. It took a little bit of time to adjust, but, like, everything I do now for training is because, like, I wanna be there. I
Mhm.
wanna show up, I wanna skate, and just going through that process and letting myself like train a little bit differently too. Like I always thought I had to like train a certain way. Like I had to do like this, and this, like a checklist. Which is like what you should be too. But in my mind, it was just so like cut and paste every day. There was no wiggle room for like creativity. And
Mhm.
so like when I wasn't able to jump, just letting myself have like creative moments where I like blast some music that I like do a little bit of improv on the ice, just like do what I want to do and not like what I feel like I have to practice and work on. It's like completely freeing. And like saying it now, it's such a minor change, but it was like the biggest switch in my head. Like, oh, this doesn't have to be like this one way that I've done it my whole life. It could like be like skating can be like this, and this, and I actually like really love it. So I don't know. I love skating now, and it's what I like to do. So I show up to the rink every day and just try and have a good time. And I'm regardless of how many times I've fallen in that practice or like if it was a terrible day, I'm really happy to be there because I know what the alternative is now, like not being able to skate. So
Mhm.
I'm just happy to be able to skate and be able to train and do what I want to do.
That
Yeah,
is
you can go, Neela.
That very much made my day. It's beautiful to hear. I've been a fan of you for years, and I've kind of been wondering what's been going on the skating front. So it's good to hear that update and to hear that you really love to skate because you have experienced that alternative of not skating because you have been injured and you've applied to college, you got into college, and you're an adult now, and I think that's awesome, and you've taken ownership of your life and career, and that's something that I can kind of relate to because. Um, I'm the one who's reaching out to a teacher, a coach to kind of uh, get extra lessons and go to more practices because before I remember like when I was in high school I would dread going to practice. I would hate it because at that point I was just doing it for my parents. And now that I'm 19, I'm an adult now and I still feel like a little kid, but I very much am in control of the decisions I make. And it's beautiful to hear that it's what you want to be doing. And thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
Ting, I also like didn't know if I was gonna continue my sport as I like went into college, like fresh start, a way to kind of like build my identity outside of sport. So I didn't do it for a little bit. And then obviously like with COVID, I wasn't practicing. And again, like it's made me so like grateful for like every like minute I have at practice, because like I know what the alternative is, and I know that like a life without it makes me like really sad and makes me like miss it. So like in a way, like it's taught me to be more grateful about my life and about like the opportunities I have. But yeah, definitely like that transition from like childhood to adulthood, at least in my experience, coaches stop being kind of like parental figures and really take that like coach role in your life, which I like as an adult. I think I definitely was, as like as an athlete, I think I'm more receptive to that than like a paternal figure as, because like my high school coaches, like they would kind of act like our parents, versus like
Mhm.
college, it's like all business, which I don't know, I feel like they were good for different times in my life, but I much
Mhm.
prefer the all business versus like the like motherly figure.
Yeah. It's a scary time in your life when you're like transitioning um from like the two roles. But if you've been like following me for a while, you know like the influence my dad has had on my skating. And he's been like such a big figure and
Yeah.
like a very overbearing and controlling figure.
Mhm.
So when he just like and like props to him, like when he let go and he was able to let go, because I know like some of my peers, like my Asian peers with like their crazy Asian overbearing parents, like their parents are still there and like still trying to like regulate and control certain things. So like for him to be able to just like take a step back and give me like the freedom and independence to kind of figure things out on my own
Mhm.
Hmm.
was great. And I'm like proud of him for like being able to let me do that and like have the trust in me to do that.
Yeah.
But it was definitely scary, like
Yeah.
not having him like by my side all the time and like helping me through things and just like, working through things on my own.
Yeah. I can relate to that in the sense that like I think, my parents came to this country and it's like in my head, my sole goal is like I need to make them proud. Or else, in my head, which is not actually, the case. If I don't reach like the pinnacle of success, I failed them. And that is kind of, I mean, I think my dad is kind of similar to how your dad has been in the past. He really does want me to do the best. And I get that, and I see how much love and care he has for me. But I think that, me and him, we have different cultural backgrounds. I was born and raised in the States, and in my head I was like, this is way too overbearing. This isn't helping me. You're just nagging me. And it's been so amazing to see how much he's kind of mellowed out as I've matured and grown up, and he kind of has more trust in me. And that's so awesome that I'm guessing your dad kind of sees you as an adult now, and also sees that you've taken ownership of your career. And I'm sure that he's so proud of you. Like I know me and Cece are so proud of, we're so proud of you. We see how much progress you've made, and I'm sure he does as well.
I hope so.
Oh.
I don't know if you follow gymnastics. I'm definitely not the best person for this, but like the way you talk about your training really, like Mila, you can probably elaborate on this. Reminds me a lot of how is her name, Chazelle. She's the gymnastics, and she competed in like 2006, and then she like came back over the pandemic and has like she's better than before. And she talks a
Oh,
lot of
Chelsea, yeah.
Chelsea. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I read like one article in the New York Times about her. She talks a lot about how like being older and being able to kind of like take ownership, and her parents are her coaches, and how like she's able to tell like, oh, when she's done for a practice or when she can go more. And I feel like that sort of like body awareness really comes with like maturity, and once you've like kind of been out in adulthood and you know your limits.
Yeah, definitely. Like my story of this transition like certainly isn't the first, but it's a little different for everyone.
Yeah,
And I followed her a little bit, but her story has been really inspiring.
yeah.
And
I
then another role model for me, like during this time, has been like Carolina Costner from the
Yes.
skating world.
Yes.
Because, like
she's
she's tall, she's got those long lines
she's
and
got those
limbs.
that beautiful lats. Oh my gosh, I love her
Yeah.
jumps.
Yeah. She's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We love Carolina. I still watch her like short program from Worlds in 2018 and like cry because it's so beautiful.
The Namikita.
In
I like one of
Milan,
my
where it's like her home. Like I'm like, oh my gosh.
yeah. One of my all-time favorite programs. I watch it too. Like every once in a while I'll have to like go back and like watch it again.
Yeah, that sport program itself, like specifically at 2018 Worlds, is so damn inspiring. Like, she's so tall, but and she's ridiculously talented. Like I mean, well,
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you at Worlds. In 2 years, you're gonna be exactly like her. Not exactly like her. I rescind that statement, but you're gonna be your own person, and you're gonna be 5'6", and you're gonna kill it.
Thanks. Appreciate the support.
Of course. I guess we're gonna end this interview with a couple like fun rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
So the first one is, what's your favorite place you've competed at?
Oh, I have a few. So Zagreb, Croatia, where 2019 Junior Worlds was really cool because I was there for a little bit longer than I normally am for international competition, just because they let you get there a couple of days early to like train and get used to everything. So I got to explore that city more, and it was really pretty. Oberstdorf, Germany, my first international competition. It was in this like small, quaint little mountain village, like very snowy. And my friend and I rode like the gondola all the way up, and the views were just absolutely stunning. So I think those would be my top two places. And like how I do kind of puts a certain tint on the location too. So that is
For sure.
that plays a role there too.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah, I relate to that very much. Okay, what's your dream job?
I don't know. You mean outside of skating, right? Or
Yeah.
post skating?
Post skating, yeah.
I really don't know. That's
okay.
not something I have like quite thought about yet. But I was in the law program in my high school, and so that's like something I'm interested in. I'm generally good at like picking a fight, especially with my parents. I'm like a quick talker, and like I talk back and like
oh god,
all
no.
that.
My like nickname is like Chatty Cathy because I talk so much.
Yeah. But I also want to be able to like be in control at my job. So maybe like owning a business or something, or I can have that control. I don't know. It's opportunities are endless, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted. I mean, like, I'm not that much older than you, but I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was a freshman. Okay, glazed donuts or the ones with frosting?
Glaze.
Yes.
Good answer. Choice. Good choice.
Correct answer.
And I think I might know this answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What is your favorite figure skating program of all time in any discipline? Or maybe if you can narrow it down to your favorite program from the last Olympic quad, so 2018 to now.
Okay, I have like three. So Carolina Costner,
amazing. So good.
Tessa Virtue, Scott Moore's Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
A classic.
Yes.
A classic.
Absolutely amazing.
Said the answer here.
And Gabriella Papadakis, William Ciceron's Beethoven.
So true. Yes.
That program is so good. Yeah. It's so funny you mentioned Moulin Rouge. That was the program that got me into figure skating. I saw it in like a newspaper article and I like watched it and like cried. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to watch figure skating now.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's like I saw like you picked like two like ice dance programs. Is that Natalia kind of like working her ice dance like magic on you to like hypnotize you, or have you always liked ice dance?
No, I've actually always liked ice dance. I love the jumps, and like I'm a jumper, but I just love the way they like move and glide and perform on the ice. It's, to me, much more entertaining than like some of like what single skaters do. Just
Yeah.
because like that is their sport. That's how they compete. And for us, we have the jumps and our technical elements, and like they do too. But like performance is such a big aspect of that. And I
Mhm.
just like love the way like they draw you in. And so I've always been an ice dance fan.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's good to hear. Whenever like people tell me that they think ice dance is boring, I can never like conceptualize that anyone can think it's boring because in my head it's like ice dance is the essence of skating. Like ice dancers are just so good, so good. Ice dance is definitely my favorite discipline. But yeah, that makes me so happy. And you saying that Moulin Rouge is one of your favorite programs made my day, and it's always the answer that I love to hear.
Oh. Yeah, it was amazing. Like that program too. Actually, all three. I have to go back and like watch every so often.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, to like kind of like give me the serotonin to like get through like a tough week or something. I'm like, all right, Carolina
Mhm.
Costner, Worlds SP 2018 YouTube. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
It's free therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you kind of decided on your music for both of your programs? And yeah.
I have, yes. So my short is gonna be, it's called This Bitter Earth by Dina Washington and Max Richter.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
so it's
We
like the
love Max
lyrics,
Richter.
yeah, it's really cool. My choreographer Colin McManus suggested it, and it's like the lyrics from the Dina Washington piece layered
Hmm.
over a Max Richter instrumental, and it's chilling.
That's so
It's so
creative.
beautiful. Yeah, it's hard to skate too because it's kind of, it's like with most Max Richter pieces, they're more on the mellow side. They don't necessarily like build,
mhm.
but like they're so powerful. And so I
Hmm.
feel like I have to embody the music and also compose it a little bit with my skating because I can't really follow the melody the whole time just because it is like slower paced. I have to like bring that power and excitement to it in a way that's fitting. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge to just not like blend in with it. Because if you hear it, it just like is very like mellow and like slow tone, at least until like the footwork when it starts to pick up. But it's cool and I'm excited to do it. It's a challenge. When Colin like first brought it to me, I was I wasn't sure about it. It was beautiful, but I just wasn't sure I could do it justice because like it was such a cool piece of music. But I really liked what we've done together with it, and we'll continue to like work on it as the season goes on.
Yeah,
And then my long pro, yeah,
it's only June. You have so much time.
yeah. I just feel like I've been out of it for so long. Like I've been off season for so long. But my long program is going to be the same thing I had last or 2 seasons
Mhm.
ago. Um, a piece from Nocturnal Animals
Mhm.
and combined with like this waltzy piece.
Mhm. Lovely, lovely. Yeah, it's awesome to hear. Did you do your short program last seat or I feel like I saw it on your Wikipedia page that you were doing that Max Richter piece of music for your short program at some period of time, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I got it a while ago, I think now,
Hmm.
but I wasn't like fully training it until I I had it took a while to like get through everything.
Yeah.
And like for a little bit I told Natalia like I need to pause on skating just so that I can figure things out. So
Mhm.
I didn't like start like training and like committing to training
Hmm.
until like end of February of this
Hmm.
year. So I've had the program I think like for longer than that, but
Yeah.
like February is when I started getting into everything. But
Yeah.
I did a couple of shows with it, and it's gotten like a good reaction from the crowd. I think I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Once we find footage, we will definitely
Yeah,
post it so everyone can see it. I can just like tell from the music, I'm gonna love it. I love Max Richter's, like his, I listen to his music all the time when I study, so I always love it when skaters skate to him.
yeah.
Cool.
We're so excited to see you compete again. Depending on if certain competitions, your summer competitions are going to be streamed, we're definitely going to be following your career this summer, and we're so excited to hopefully see you in the fall, and we really do want to thank you, and we're so grateful to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for talking to us about that psychological impact of injury. I know me and Cece, have kind of been there, and even at least for me, I every day I still kind of experience that impact. Right now I'm having back problems and it sucks. Really
Mhm.
wish I didn't have the back and ankles made of jelly, but it is what it is, and I can't kind of be stuck in this vicious cycle of like being mad at myself and the world, and I just kind of have to go with the flow and kind of deal with it. And it was, it's very heartwarming to hear that you're doing so well, especially because it's really only been, it's only been a few months since you've kind of seriously been training again. It's awesome to hear you have this good relationship with Natalia, and we all of us, we're so excited to follow, continue to follow your career. The coming seasons.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ting,
Um,
for talking with us. We really appreciated you taking the time to answer our questions. So yeah, thank you so much. Ting, if you want to like drop your socials or where people can find you if they want to know more and follow your skating journey.
yeah, well, thank you guys so much for having me. I had a great time talking about everything and just like having real open, honest conversation about stuff. My socials, I'm on Instagram mostly if I'm on that, but it's ting underscore a underscore ding ting a ding,
Awesome.
and you can find me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ting. We wish you the best of luck if you have practice today and that you have the best Sunday. I hope you watch lots of Netflix, get lots of sleep. Yeah, good luck at college. It's going to be a blast. And
Oh,
yeah,
it is fun.
college is fun.
And also thank you for everyone who's listening to taking the time to listen. And we really hope you enjoyed Ting's unique perspective on skating. So thank you.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.